Hello there and welcome back to a new video on this channel. As you all know, my name is Daniel and I teach real English to real Polish people. I'm trying out something new, potentially a new series, English for investors. This video is for my audience who also is in some way interested in investing, but perhaps due to language limitations are not able to fully learn about and explore investing as much as they like to. You know that most of the resources and materials you find online are in English, and sometimes that can be a barrier to learning. So today I want to bridge that gap. A bit of English learning, a bit of investing to make it easier to understand. We're going to look at a stock page, like a typical stock page on Yahoo Finance. We're going to talk about key terminology, key phrases we can use to describe what we see and talk to other people about it potentially. So in front of me, as you can see, I am on Yahoo Finance, which is a go-to website when it comes to investing and looking at different stocks and stock prices. This is what we call a stock page. So we're looking at Nvidia Corporation, which is, if you don't know, they're a computing infrastructure company. By the way, this is not financial advice and I personally don't own any Nvidia stock. Pierwszy element to tak zwany ticker, the ticker symbol, and that is right here. The 4 letters, as in the case of Nvidia. Every single company listed on the stock market has a ticker symbol, and they are usually comprised of 3 or 4 letters that represent that company. In Nvidia's case, we can see it's NVDA. That's the ticker symbol. Fun fact, kiedyś akcje były wypisywane na fizycznej taśmie papieru, która tykała z maszyny. Stąd nazwa ticker symbol. Następny kluczowy element oczywiście to cena. The price. I tak, jest jedna, powiedzmy, konkretna cena dla danego stoku, więc we should say the price. What's the price of Nvidia? It's important to know, że jak chcemy powiedzieć aktualna cena, nie mówimy actual price. Actual price znaczy coś innego. W języku angielskim actual to jest prawdziwe, właściwe. So actual price would be prawdziwa cena. Jak chcemy wspomnieć o aktualnej cenie, mówimy the current price. Current. So the current price of Nvidia, as shown right here, is this big black number right under the ticker symbol. So we're looking here at the price of $173.74. That is the current price. Now it's worth noting that these prices are typically in USD, US dollars. Mamy w dolarach cenę, ponieważ ta firma akurat jest listowana na Nasdaq, which we can see here, czyli na giełdzie amerykańskiej. Z racji tego cena jest podawana w dolarach. If a stock was listed on the London Stock Exchange, you might see that price in GBP, in British pounds. So you might ask someone, what's the current price of Nvidia? And oczywiście tu mamy cenę za jedną akcję. So this is the price of one share. Now at the time of recording, the market is currently closed, and we can see US market opens in 4 hours and 8 minutes. It's 11 a.m. in Poland, so the market's closed. Because of that, we have a pre-market price. Usually when the market is open, we don't see this little price on the right. We just see the main stock price here, but due to the fact that the market is closed, we have the pre-market price right here. Right next to the price here in green, at this moment in time, we have the change values, which show us how the value of the stock has changed in relation to the previous close. Remember, markets open and then markets close. Now, given that these values are in green, we can see the numbers are in green. That means there is a positive change. The value has gone up. If the value had gone down, these numbers, these percentages would be in red, as we can actually see on the pre-market figure. So we've got two change values here. A raw price change, meaning how many dollars has it gone up by or gone down by? And in this case, it's gone up by $2.96, right? And then we've got the percentage price change. So the price has gone up by 1.73%. So Nvidia is, you could say, doing well at the moment. So now we're going to quickly skip the chart, the price chart. We're going to look at the summary box, which shows us the most important metrics as investors. Starting with the previous close. The previous close. To nam po prostu mówi, jaka była cena przy wczorajszym zamknięciu. So we can say yesterday's closing price was $170.78. Now the open is the opposite. It tells us at what price, at what value the stock opened. So the stock opened at $172.45. So we can actually see that the stock opened higher than yesterday's close or the previous close. The day range just tells us about zakres dzienny. We know what that means. Zakres is range, dzienny is day. It's just a day range. This metric shows us how much the price moved during today's session. What was the lowest point and what was the highest point. So it ranged from $171 to $173. Now we've got a very similar metric, but now we've got a 52-week range, which shows us how much the price has moved in basically the last year, counting back from today. So in Nvidia's case, we actually have a massive range from $86 all the way up to $174. So now we're looking at the market cap, kapitalizacja rynkowa, the market capitalization, which is simply the total value of all outstanding shares of Nvidia. And it's massive. It is 4.237 trillion. The next key metric we're looking at is beta. Beta is essentially a volatility metric that compares the volatility of any given stock to the way the entire market is moving. So volatility is zmienność, zmienność ceny. How volatile is the stock? How volatile is the price? Is it very volatile? Jest bardzo zmienna, bardzo szybko się waha, idzie w górę, spada w dół. In general, we also assess markets by volatility too. For example, the cryptocurrency market is very volatile. Prices going up and down all the time. It's not very stable. A beta of 1 essentially is a kind of standard in line with the market. If the figure is lower than 1, anything lower than 1 is low volatility. Zmienia się jeszcze wolniej i mniej niż cały rynek ogólnie. So anything more than 1 means it's more volatile than the market itself. Nvidia has a beta of 2.13. So it's quite volatile, we could say. 2 is quite up there. Now, if we look at Johnson & Johnson and compare the beta, there is a massive difference. The beta for Johnson & Johnson is 0.4. Now, there is obviously a reason for that. Johnson & Johnson is what we would call a dividend stock. And in fact, they are even classified as, I believe, a dividend king. So for companies like that, the volatility is low for a reason. Remember how I said that the beta is kind of calculated in relation to the movements of the entire market and the price volatility of the whole market. If we look at the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF with the ticker VOO, we can actually see a perfect beta score of 1. 1.00. So the S&P 500 ETF is essentially the standard for volatility when we're looking at beta 1. We're going to quickly now look at the PE ratio and EPS, two valuation metrics. The PE ratio is the price to earnings ratio, which essentially tells us how expensive a stock is, price, compared to, in relation to, how much it is earning. Now on the screen, I'm going to show you some general price to earnings ratio benchmarks, what is considered a very low PE ratio, anything between 0 and 10, and all the way to what is considered a very high PE ratio, which is essentially, like, for example, above 40. As we can see here, Nvidia, judging by those benchmarks and standards, Nvidia has a very high PE ratio of 56.23. So we can quickly look at the forward dividend and yield now, which tells us how much the company pays out in dividends for holding the stock. Now here it's worth noting that some companies pay out high amounts of dividends to their shareholders, and other companies that don't really pay anything out, just a little bit. And that kind of depends on the strategy and where the company is. Nvidia pays out practically nothing per share that costs $173. They will pay out dividends of 4 cents for the year, which is essentially nothing. But that is because they're taking a majority of their profit and reinvesting it for growth. Whereas looking at Johnson & Johnson now, they pay out over $5 of dividends per year for a single stock. So that is like over 100 times more that you're getting in dividends for the same stock. So some companies are more dividend centric and some are more growth centric. So the ex-dividend date is the essentially cutoff point to when you can purchase the stock to actually get some dividends in return for that trading period. So now let's look at the chart for a second. Here is the price chart giving you a price history amongst other things. Now we can look at the 1-day chart, which shows us 24 hours of trading. We've got a 5-day chart. We've got a year-to-date chart, which shows us all of the current year, starting from the 1st of January, so all of 2025. We've got a 1-year chart, which shows us the last 52 weeks, 5 years, and then we've got all, which shows us the entire history of the stock. So let's look at the 1-year chart, showing us the last 52 weeks. And let's have a little chat about it, use some terminology to describe what's happening to the price of the stock. So we've got quite an interesting picture. We can actually see that the beta was correct. This is quite a volatile stock in the sense of it's got a lot of price movement. It goes up a lot and it goes down a lot, and it does that quite fast. So 1 year ago, we actually saw that the stock was at one of its lowest points, and from then on it went on a bit of a run. The price went up in around, let's say, August, September time. Then the price fell back down a bit in September, but then it really went on quite the run. And we can see quite a long and strong upward trend all the way from September up to, let's say, mid-November, where it reached quite a peak for that time of around $150 per share. And then it kind of leveled off, staying at a similar level, obviously jumping up and down, but staying around the 100 to 140 mark. And then there was quite a significant downward trend starting, it looks like February, which took it all the way to its lowest point in April. And right here at the bottom, you actually see these bars. They're a bit low opacity, grayed out, but they're showing us volume. Volume essentially shows us how much the stock was traded on a particular day. So the higher these little bars go, like in February, there was a kind of peak of volume. That means a lot of people were buying and a lot of people were selling. There was a lot going on. So I think we're gonna wrap it up there, everyone. Let me know what you thought about today's video. We definitely spoke a bit more in English, but we tried to put on some training wheels. We took it slow, we broke everything down. I hope it was helpful. I definitely learned something while making this video too. If you enjoyed the video, as always, subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. Like the video, all that good stuff. I will see you, as always, in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.